Shalom. I'm going to start by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Chodesh. Yahweh is the true name of the Heavenly Father in ancient Hebrew. Yahweh Shai is the true name of His only begotten Son. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations to the elect of the nation of Israel, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Bible, or the so-called blacks, so-called Hispanics, and so-called Native Americans, as well as your Israelite foreigners that may look like the other nations but believe this truth. This is Brother Shakal here with a video lesson on an interesting look into the secular history of the apocrypha, because there are many accounts in the apocrypha which is a part of the Bible. You read the King James 1611 before the apocrypha was removed out of the Bible. You had certain books, for example, the Maccabees, First and Second Esdras, Tobit, Judith, Baruch, and so on, which is not all of them, but that there were some books from the Apocrypha, Ecclesiasticus, also known as Sirach, Wisdom of Solomon, or two more, but this lesson is going to be on secular history, which is basically history you would read in a book that that is in the Apocrypha, which we don't need secular history, but it's interesting to look at, and it sparks a question of why do many people question the validity of the Apocrypha, since all this secular history backs it up, and it really prophecy all over the Apocrypha. Because what come to my mind is the book of Second Esdras is heavily prophetic. We have Baruch also. Wisdom of Solomon includes prophecy. And so we lean on Yahweh Bashar through this word. But let's look at some of these secular accounts that the Apocrypha backs up, that links up with the Apocrypha. Now, the first one I'm going to look at is in the book of First Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 1. And so to set the stage, it's going into the beginning of the reign of ancient Greece. So this is First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1. And it happened after that, which was the captivity of the Israelites. And this is why we were called Greeks in the New Testament. The Gentiles of the Roman captivity, the Greeks in a Gentile state of mind, were Israelites who became Hellenized, who were forced to follow Greek customs. That's what the Hellenized means. But they were Israelites. That's why the scriptures say Jew nor Greek are the same people. They're Jews that were forced to put on Greek customs. And so another reason they took out that Apocrypha is to hide information like that shows you the Gentiles for salvation, or the Greeks or the Israelites in the New Testament, where it says Jew nor Greek. But I'll read this. First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 1. And it happened after that, Alexander son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece. So who is this Alexander that has to do with ancient Greece? It's talking about Alexander, known as Alexander the Great. We call him Alexander the Greek. But in history, if you looked it up, you would find him as Alexander the Great. You see, Alexander the Great, former king of Macedonia. This is that Alexander in First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 1. Also in prophecy in Daniel the 8th chapter, the notable horn that came against the was the ram with the two horns. The one horn was higher, which is the Medo-Persian Empire. The he-goat is Alexander as well. The ram with the two horns is the Medo-Persian Empire, Daniel the 8th chapter. The notable horn is also Alexander, Daniel the 8th chapter. We're not going to go to it. Let's read something. Alexander III of Macedon, most commonly known as Alexander the Great, was a king of ancient Greek kingdom of Macedon. What is Alexander the Great known for? Alexander the Great is primarily known for his military genius in the vast empire he created. What stretched from Greece to India, he is also celebrated for spreading the Hellenistic culture and found in numerous cities. His military campaigns, though brief, had a lasting impact on the ancient world, shaping the course of history and leaving behind a legacy both conquest and cultural exchange. In the Greek Empire was the first major empire of the Edomites, which the Edomites is the so-called white man, the wicked, the devil that the Bible speaks of. The sons of the wicked. But this is an example of the apocrypha. This is that First Maccabees 1:1 speaking. Let's read this again. First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes. Then he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece, and made many wars and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through the ends of the earth, and took many spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him. Whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up, and he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his... So this is going into Alexander the Greek that we read about verse 1, and read that the history on him. Well, we won't keep going and get too deep into it, but just to make that point, this is one example of secular history in the apocrypha. Now, I do want to skip down in the same empire. There was a man named Antiochus Epiphanes, also known as Antiochus IV. Where should I start? So give me a second. Oh, it should be, here it is. You know what, Salakia, I'll just keep reading down, actually, Salakia. From verse 5, and after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die. Talking about Alexander the Greek. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them, while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years, and then died, and his servants bare rule every one in his place. And after his death they all put crowns upon themselves, so did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. And so after Alexander ruled, he had his 4 major generals, which we read in Daniel 7. Um, the four wings of a fowl were the four heads. Talking about the four generals that succeeded Alexander to rule over the Greek Empire, which you had the Seleucids, the Ptolemies, your Lysimaeus and Cassander, or Ptolemy, Seleucid, Lysimaeus, and Cassander. And then you had this man, Antiochus, which those are all historical as well. It doesn't name their names here, so I didn't prepare it. But just to make that point, you read the Diadochi Wars. That's historical, known as the Syrian Wars. That's Daniel the 11th chapter as well. There's a lot of secular history in the Bible. And the secular history was once prophecy. When given to Daniel, for example, was given the prophecy of what kingdom would come after Babylon being the Medo-Persian Empire before it even happened. And so we look at it now as history in the Bible, but back then, before it became history, it was prophecy. Before the kingdom even sprout up, Yahweh gave Daniel the prophecy. So showing it was Yahweh that his word stands and rules, and is the dictating factor of empires, their rise and their falls. But we're gonna just get down to so going back to Alexander's four generals, Seleucid, Ptolemy, Lysimaeus, and Cassander. Out of the line of the Seleucids, you had the Antiochus, which we're gonna focus on Antiochus Epiphanes, who put a lot of hell on the Israelites and brought that forcible, torturous Hellenization. So it's reading on. Verse 10, and there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, the son of Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. So Antiochus Epiphanes, known as Antiochus the Fourth, is a historical figure, just like Alexander the Greek, known as Alexander the Great. Yes, Antiochus is a historical figure, so it answers you right there. Several individuals named Antiochus ruled as kings in the Seleucid Empire, which the Seleucid Empire is, guess what, a historical empire. You read that, find it in a history lesson, showing the Bible is the true history. A Hellenistic kingdom that existed after the death of Alexander the Great. We just read that in 1 Maccabees, the first chapter in the apocrypha, secular history in the apocrypha. Notably, Antiochus the Fourth Epiphanes is known for his persecution of the Jews. That's how he became the Greeks, because the Greeks persecuted us, and some of the Jews fell away from the customs and became like Greeks. That's why we needed the word to be spread to us. But that's a different topic. In the subsequent Maccabean revolt, other Antiochuses such as Antiochus the Great and Antiochus I Soter also played significant roles in Seleucid history. And there's another term, the Maccabean revolt, which is you get the book of Maccabees. You had Judas Maccabeus, Mattathias, and you had the different wars that were fought, which is also a part of our secular history. This is historically accurate. And I was loading even though I already looked it up. Here it is. Traditionally been considered highly trustworthy. The Maccabees being historically accurate. It has traditionally been considered highly trustworthy, although it is to some extent the official version of history according to the Hasmoneans and from the Maccabean point of view. The Maccabean revolt was a major event in the history of the Jews. In about 330 BC, the Jewish community around Jerusalem was conquered by Alexander the Greek. Here's a good one. Yes, the Maccabean revolt is considered a historical event in secular history. It is a significant event in the history of the Jews, where a Jew uprising, or I should say uprising of the Southern Kingdom Israelites, known as the Jews, against the Seleucid Empire, which is where Antiochus came from. Antiochus Epiphanes we're focusing on, the fourth, occurred from 167 to 160 BC, according to Historical Conquest and World History Encyclopedia. This revolt is also detailed in the books of Maccabees, which are part of the apocrypha in some Christian traditions and are considered historical sources. So the Bible is the true history. It's the same thing written in the Historical Conquest and World History Encyclopedia. That's biblical. And the other books of the Bible go into that history in a more prophetic tone, like Daniel the 8th chapter. But the Maccabees gives you the actual history on a persecution in the Maccabean revolt. In the Greek history of our captivity there, and again, what I mentioned Daniel the 8th chapter, going into our role or the rulers of Greece in part of what they did to the persecution they brought upon us is in Daniel the 8th chapter. And so it's all biblical. Now, there's another one in the book of Maccabees, another character, or two more characters that are also recognized in secular history, that are these biblical characters. One of them is Onias. Yes, Onias is recognized in secular history primarily through the writings of Flavius Josephus. This is a Jewish historian who lived in the 1st century CE. Josephus mentioned Onias, particularly Onias III, who fled to Egypt and established a temple in Leotopolis. This temple, a replica of one in Jerusalem, is also acknowledged in historical texts and is relevant to the study of histories of Jews in Egypt during the Hellenistic period. Let's read this one. And the second one, secular historical sources. Josephus' account of Onias III and Leotopolis temple is corroborated by other historical sources, including papyrus documents and archaeological evidence. For example, Papyrus CPJ 132 mentions a high-ranking official, Israelite Jew official named Onias in the Heliopolitan Nome, likely referring to Onias III. And so we had these names and these biblical identities are in historical evidence, showing you the Bible is the truth. The Bible is true, the Bible is the truth. Now, we don't need these secular history, but it's interesting to see how it matches up. And it exposes these people that say, oh, the Bible is a fairy tale. No, it's not a fairy tale. It's the true history book. It's prophecy. It's the word of the Lord, Yahweh Bashmashai, the power, only true power that created the heavens and the earth. Now, here's another one. We're dealing with Jason the high priest, which we're going to get the scripture concerning both of these men. and there's wickedness going on in the within the priesthood of Israel at this time. But just the fact that these names are mentioned in secular history is the point. Yes, Jason, the high priest of Jerusalem during the Second Temple period, is recognized in secular history. Jason lived during a time when Judea was under the rule of the Seleucid Empire, specifically during the reign of Antiochus Epiphanes IV. And so let's read about here in Jason and Onias. The second Maccabees chapter 4 verse 7. But after the death of Seleucus, when Antiochus called Epiphanes took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Onias, labored underhand to be high priest. And so there are two names in secular history that are biblical names, showing the Bible reigns supreme, even when it comes to history. And you can keep proving it and proving it again and again. Now, we'll fast forward to the ancient Roman Empire, which was right after the ancient Greek Empire. You got another account of that in the book of 2nd Ezra, the 11th chapter. Which is not, this doesn't specifically name names, but I wanted to go into it because there's something specific that it hones in on is the 12 Roman Caesars. So this is 2nd Ezra chapter 11, just one verse. 2nd Ezra chapter 11, verse 1. Then saw I a dream, and behold, there came up from the sea an eagle, which had 12 feathered wings and 3 heads. This is dealing with ancient Rome. And the 12 feathered wings are dealing with the 12 Caesars of ancient Rome. The 12 feathered wings. Why is it 12? Well, you look up how many Caesars are in ancient Rome. The term Caesars in the context of Roman history generally refers to the first 12 emperors as chronicled by Suetonius in his work The 12 Caesars. So that's the 12 feathered wings. There are 12 Roman Caesars, or 12 Roman emperors. That's the 12 feathered wings. So the 12 Caesars, these include Julius Caesar, Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, Nero, Galba, Otho, Vitellius, Vespasian, Titus, and Domitian. And so that's the 12 feathered wings. That is in the book of 2nd Ezra, the 11th chapter, in the first verse as we just read. And the 3 heads of the first triumvirate, which was Crassus, Pompey, and Julius. And so let's read that again. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 11, verse 1. Then saw I a dream, and behold, there came up from the sea an eagle, which had 12 feathered wings and 3 heads. And so the eagle with the 12 feathered wings and the 3 heads is ancient Rome. The 12 feathered wings goes into the 12 Roman Caesars, which is not a coincidence, it's biblical. And the 3 heads, again, the first triumvirate, which were Julius, Crassus, and Pompey. Which I forget the full names. In ancient Rome, a group of 3 men holding power, just the 3 heads, in particular the first triumvirate, the unofficial coalition of Julius Caesar, Pompey, and Crassus. So that's the 3 heads, the first triumvirate. That was a quick one on the ancient Roman Empire, which are more secular accounts. There are prophetic accounts. There was the next captivity of the Israelites in ancient Rome was also ran by Edomites, the so-called white man, were in a revised Roman Empire. Where we see elements of Greek history and Rome, showing you this, there's still the same Edomite devils as today, the same perpetual hatred toward us Israelites. And we're prophesying against these people, but this is and the king's going down. But this is in secular history. These kingdoms are in the Bible. These names, these rulers, these kings, these biblical names. The biblical names are in history. The historical kings and names are in the Bible, and the Bible said it first. The Bible said it before it even happened, because it's the words of the Lord Yahweh Bashar. Now we'll get one more account. Going back to the Assyrian Empire, which is the first beast. You got the Assyrian Babylonian Empire in Daniel the 7th chapter. Which was the Assyrian Empire specifically was the captivity for the Northern Kingdom Israelites, which are the so-called Hispanic and Native American Indian tribes. Israel. So this is the Assyrian Empire, was a major Near Eastern empire that existed for approximately 19 centuries from around 2500 BCE to 605 BCE. It was known for its powerful military, advanced war strategies, and extensive empire building, particularly during the Neo-Assyrian period. And so where the the kingdom of Assyria found in the apocrypha? Here in 2nd Ezra the 13th chapter. And we'll skip down to verse 40. The 2nd Ezra chapter 13 and verse 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, when Salmanassar the king of Assyria, there you go, the Assyrian Empire, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. So this is dealing with the Israelites, the Northern Kingdom Israelites, after the split of Solomon, in the Assyrian captivity under the Assyrian Empire, which was what we just looked at. So where did the Israelites go, the Northern Kingdom, from this captivity of the Assyrian Empire? Verse 41, but they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. So where did mankind ever dwell? The Americas. So the Americas, the land where never mankind dwelt, was the Northern Kingdom Israelites that came from the Assyrian captivity. It's point blank period. There's no other explanation. And so we are those people. And it's being stated that it's being manifest as prophecy. In the land of our captivities, we would remember ourselves. The Ezekiel 37, the valley of the dry bones coming together. The spirit of life entering into us. The land where it said, "You're not my people," there it shall be said, "You're the sons of the living power." But we'll keep reading on, verse 42, that they might there keep their statutes which they never kept in their own land, and they entered into Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. For the Most High Yahweh then showed signs for them, and held still the flood till they were passed over. So our Heavenly Father Yahweh made it so that we could the waters, so that we could go there by means of ships. And so that's how we got there, by ships. And so the Lord, our Heavenly Father Yahweh Bashmil Shad, held still the waters, so that we didn't drown, or the ship didn't break, or whatever. Verse 45, for through that country there was a great way to go, namely 1.5 years. In the same region is called Arshva, so a land where never mankind dwelt. That was by way of ships that took 1.5 years from the Assyrian captivity, and then from around that area and then through the Euphrates River. That's the only explanation is going under Africa into the Americas, where never mankind dwelt. And so that proves that the so-called Hispanic and Native Americans are really Israelites, specifically of the Northern Kingdom. So where are the rest of the Israelites? They're the ones that were Hellenized. They're the ones that went through the Greek captivity, the Roman captivity. Those are the Jews. And so now all 12 tribes met together. This is in Jeremiah 15:33. Judah and Israel were oppressed together. So all 12 tribes, both kingdoms, were oppressed together here in America. We met in captivity. Now, I want to look at that name Shalmaneser as well. Shalmaneser is the name of several kings of Assyria. And we just read about Shalmaneser in the Bible in 2nd Ezra. And so showing you this major secular history based on the apocrypha that links with the apocrypha. And the apocrypha proves that it is true. And so it didn't even go to outside the apocrypha, just stayed in the apocrypha. And I'm sure there are more. But there's some examples that came to my mind. I didn't even think but I hope that was edifying. And that was all that I had. So, and with that, we give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Kokodash. Yahweh is the true name of the Heavenly Father Nation Hebrew. Yahweh Shai is the true name of the only begotten Son. Double honors to the elder and Apostle Gabriel, Millstone of Ruel, and Shalom to the Lord's elect. Shalom.